What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one, the only, Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com, AshSaidIt.com. Welcome to the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I appreciate you guys for all of your love and support. Over 1,600 episodes and 500,000 streams worldwide. None of this would be possible without you guys, so I thank you so very much. And yes, darling, spring is in the air, and we are chilling, and we are just trying to find center, and some of us, like myself, are even tampering with the plant-based thing. So what better way to jump into some plant-based eateries and food stuff than to have Meatless the Musical's composer and creator himself, Mr. Kevin Sherwin. Hey, Kevin.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. So I want to start things off with, when did you realize that you had a love for the arts?
That's a wonderful question. Goodness, I started playing guitar at 7 years old, and pretty quick after just starting to play, I really fell in love with it. It's something, it's very hard to explain. No one really musical in my family, but I just really gravitated towards it. And, and then gravitated towards performing. I really loved performing and connecting with people, like, live audiences. Like, that just blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah. So, did you see yourself, like, playing, like, lead guitar for, like, Guns N' Roses? Or, what was what did that look like for you?
Yeah, believe it or not, like, I was 8, 9 years old, and I was just in love with the classical guitar. I saw myself as a classical musician from really early on, and that's kind of my foundation as a musician. I'm still super active as a classical musician, but more recently, been working in, like, pop theater and, like, film music style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what was the inspiration behind Meatless the Musical?
It's kind of funny, actually. So I'm a vegan, but I had this concept. The concept was simply the title of the show. I was working on a separate project, and this title popped into my head, Meatless the Musical. I was like, wow, that is such a good title. I have no clue what to do with that, but I'll figure something out. And then a few months later, I sat down to start working on it because we were going to do some kind of performance of it at a local vegan restaurant. And this was supposed to be last summer, right? So this was supposed to be last summer. And I wrote the show a little over a year ago. So I sat down to write the show, and we were going to do it as a benefit for the Ellie Mae Farm Sanctuary, which is an incredible organization that rescues neglected and abused farm animals in Connecticut. And so we were going to do it as a benefit show for them. And so I sat down to write the show, and then I was just thinking about, okay, what's a message that really brings to light what these farm sanctuaries do? I'm like, well, I suppose the musical's at a farm sanctuary. And then who are the characters? Well, it's probably the animals, right?
Right.
And there's the farm sanctuary manager. And it just kind of all came together with these three main characters who are the rescued animals. Because, if you just come into contact with any rescued animal, it could be a rescued farm animal, or maybe more locally, it's rescued companion animal, right?
Right.
Animal shelters. Like, animals have so much personality. It's just like bursting at the seams, So in a way, you just kind of listen to that. And that's really where the inspiration for the show came from.
Okay. Now, as you're writing the show and you're coming up with characters and scenarios and all these different things, what was the most difficult part of that process for you?
That's a really good question. Let's see. I'd say really trying to capture some of the conflicts that happen in this space and in this world. So in the show, one of the main characters, who's the farm sanctuary manager, the real conflict is that her brother comes to the farm sanctuary, and her brother is a cattle and dairy farmer. But he comes to the sanctuary because his farm was destroyed by a wildfire. And so he comes not knowing anything about animal rescue, not knowing anything about plant-based lifestyle or vegan lifestyle.
Right.
And he is confronted by this fact that the animals that he's been treating like objects are actually individuals and have emotions and have personality. So to try and capture that in a way that not only speaks to people who are already vegan, but also maybe opens people's minds up or are not plant-based, not vegan, never considered, because I was not vegan my whole life by any means.
Right.
It was a kind of revelation from people around me. So to speak to people who are not yet plant-based and show them that, it's a beautiful thing to live in a cruelty-free way.
I agree. Me, myself, I've been vegetarian for over a decade now. And mainly I became vegetarian because I had a roommate at the time when I was in school. And she was doing some work for PETA. And they had all of these videos. And I will never forget, it was a clip of, well, I won't even know clip. I will say it was like a miniature movie of all the animal industries. So from pork to beef to chicken. And it was called Meet Your Meat. And it was literally exposing all of those industries, and you're seeing how everything is being handled, and you don't know where your food is coming from, you don't know what kind of conditions it's coming from. It really it awoken something inside of me. Now, we were talking offline, and I told you that I also was, even though I was not eating meat and I wasn't eating poultry, I still would dabble with some seafood. I'm a Southern girl. I've been raised in the South. You fry up some good catfish for me, Kevin. I'm there. But but with the pandemic has slowed us down, and it definitely took us by shock. But it also helped us to realize the things that are really important, and just for our overall health. And then I was watching a documentary, Seaspiracy. All right, you guys if you're not already out on and watching that stuff on Netflix, I've been catching up on my Netflix there, Kevin, and that really opened up my eyes to that industry, because prior to that, it's like you're putting it out of your mind. Oh, animals don't feel, or fish don't feel, or whatever. Or, no, fish are some of the smartest animals on the planet, and we don't need to be eating them and indulging in those things. So I have been also slowly making changes and not consuming fish and not consuming seafood at all. So I've been going, this is going to be, next week is going to be like almost a month. So it's not as difficult as I thought that it would be. I think mostly because I had already kind of trained my mind off of meat and stuff. I'm just kind of doing the same thing with seafood. And that's really what it is.
I think one of the things your story brings out is the power of films and media and advocacy to actually change people's way of life or lifestyle in a positive way.
Right.
And it's amazing. I was talking to someone else about advocacy, and before working on the show, or even working on the show, I didn't necessarily think of myself as an advocate. I just thought I was writing this show that's an advocacy show. But there's advocacy in media and communication, and there's also the hands-on work of, say, rescuing animals or trying to change legislation. And there are just so many aspects of advocacy that are so important. And it's films like Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, Game Changers have a real concrete difference, it seems like. And,
because I think that the difference for, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but for me, you can talk about this stuff all day, every day, okay? And you throw statistics at me, you throw numbers, you throw studies at me, whatever the case is. But when you have fact staring you in the face, you can't deny facts. You can't deny the information that you're actually seeing happen before you. And for me, I'm all about, I don't live in fantasy. I don't know who does. That must be a good life to live in fantasy. But yeah, no. If you're looking, you're seeing actual footage in your face. You cannot deny it and say, oh, that's not real. Oh, that's not happening. It's happening.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely happening. Yep. All right. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, Kevin. That's okay, though. It's my show.
Great.
I get to run it.
But absolutely.
But back to Meatless the Musical. So for you as the composer, as the creator of this amazing show that's just bringing to light so many awesome things to another generation, because I feel like if children can make their own decisions earlier on, they would make smarter decisions. You know, when we were kids, there wasn't a lot of talk about this stuff. There were people that were living these lives, plant-based, but it wasn't necessarily mainstream. And so now we're living in a whole 100%. New world. Yeah, it's a whole new world of just being open and understanding and giving kids the choice to choose these things. So that's why I really am loving the musical. But I want to know, for you, from your standpoint, what would you say has been your proudest moment with this show?
Oh, wow. Well, as I said, it's in the early stages, and I hope, our plan is next year to put on performances and continue to make like film versions of this around this show and of this show.
Right.
But the first major artistic challenge after actually writing the show was that I knew that visually the show needed to convey all the emotions that were bound up in this topic. And so we have three puppets, that are the lead characters of this show. We haven't gotten picked up by Disney yet to do the CGI.
Not yet. It's coming. We're claiming it. We're claiming it. It's coming.
But I love puppets, apart from CGI, right? But so how do you represent animals with puppets, right? And so a singer I had worked with, this remarkable singer at Brendan Malafronte, is also a professional puppet builder. And so I got in touch with him and I was asking him about it. And we built these puppets. They were completed about 4 or 5 months ago. And the fact that they came out not only to be like comical and fun, but also like have a sweetness and emotionality to them.
Right.
Seeing the show start to come to life that way made me so proud and so grateful to the builder and designer. It was really, really special. So that was a really special moment for me and something very new for me as an artist.
Absolutely. So last but certainly not least, Kevin, what ultimately do you want people, audiences, families to get from this show?
Yeah, I would like people to relate to the emotional life of an animal, just like, ideally they'd relate to the emotional life of another human being. That's what it's about. And that's why I wrote it as a musical, because songs have this fantastic capability to convey like emotions that we can't fully put words to, or they make you relate to something you'd never dream of relating to before.
Right.
There's this one song, the cattle farmer, who's the brother in the story. He has a dog, and on farms there are always dogs, and they're usually the watchdogs for the animals. And one of the songs, his name is Chester the dog. They're going to bed at night, and Billy, the farmer, falls asleep. And Chester has a little aside, just to the audience, and says, I really hope that this place can change Billy. I hope that he can change his ways, because, when I was young, they told me I was supposed to watch after all the animals. But I'd have to say goodbye to all my friends, because they get shipped off to slaughter. And so the song is called No More Goodbyes, because, dogs are incredibly intelligent, and that they're aware of everything that's going on, especially if it happens time and time again on real farms. And there's no way to understand what that dog is going through, unless you work with animals a lot. But if you don't work with animals a lot, a song can do that. And so that's the song No More Goodbyes.
I love that. Kevin, Sherwin, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate
Thank you, Ash. I really appreciate you having me and talking about the show.
Certainly. Let everyone know how they can connect with you guys, your website, and also your social media tags.
Absolutely. Well, we're at www.meatlessthemusical.com, and then our handle is Meatless the Musical on Instagram. Where Instagram's kind of the main place for making videos. YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter and Facebook.
I love it. Much more success, Kevin. Can't wait to hear about the next phase, the next chapter of Meatless the Musical. I know you guys are working on some magic over there, so definitely would love to have you back to talk about that.
Would love that. Love that.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. Keeping in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do. You look them square in the face, you tell them, don't believe me, just watch. Watch what I do, watch me make it happen, watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.